We have all dealt with moments where life is going smoothly, spending time with the best people, going on adventures, dealing with life changing events with each other, sharing our accomplishments. Eventually, this consistency turns into normalcy. But then that normalcy goes away because the day comes when we take a step away for a moment, a day, months, years, just to go on our own personal journeys with the expectation that we will return to that normalcy of people still being there for us when we come back. But then reality happens. The world around us has changed. The people who were once a constant in our lives have moved away, changed, want nothing to do with us anymore, or even passed away to the next life. We have become so caught up in expecting this normalcy in our lives with certain people. We are so focused on the experiences, the awards of what we accomplish with people. But then, once that status quo is gone and these people exit our lives, we are left with one question: why did I not take enough time to know these people better? We got so caught up on the experiences rather than truly getting to know the people around us beyond just a surface level. We knew just enough to maintain the experience and the journey and to keep those people around. Loving the journey so much, failing to use the opportunities on said journey to deepen our connections with people. And like the main character of Frieren, we did not expect this change in our lives to hurt so much. We, like Frieren, wish we used that time to focus more on learning about the people in our lives and what they mean to us rather than being focused on just the collective experience of a group. Frieren is an incredible anime produced by the animators of Studio Madhouse. It is not only my current favorite anime of the decade, but it's become one of my favorite animes and shows in general of all time. Yes, the show has incredible animation with moments of Sakuga that make you want to just rewind the scene just so you can remain in awe at what you're witnessing. But what I think makes Frieren such an emotionally rich anime to immerse yourself in is the ability to convey such emotional depth about learning to love the little things in life while processing regret. All this is conveyed through the main character and other characters that interact with the title character of the show, Frieren. Frieren is an overpowered lolicon elf who goes on a journey with her D&D party to kill the big bad in the world. Rather than going on a linear journey to defeat the big demon bad of the world, we start off after the defeat of this world's big bad. Since the way we look at the world is established through how Frieren looks at and comprehends it is a unique framing device because the framing device allows us to start off the show without feeling anything about the major accomplishment we are hearing about after it's happened. Such framing about why should we care about this moment helps already position us into the mindset of Frieren, a character so detached from the big moments as they happen due to just going through the motions of life each day because they are just seem like an ordinary day to her. A feeling any human who watches the show can relate to or experience, since we can get so caught up in navigating the day to day life as it's become repetition, a routine, by doing what is necessary without thinking about it much. We fail to realize in the moment how we have made such major impacts on the people around us or the people we've come across on the journey. Now that the journey is done, Freeman goes on her own journey to return to a world that's changed, a world with which she is not familiar. Despite the changes to the world around her, Freeman still has this apathetic attachment to the world, despite hints of emotion seeping through the image that we witness. As she makes her way to reunite with her former party members, because of Freeman's apathetic attachment to the world around her, we see how her former party members have aged. We, as the viewer, are wondering why she's not showing the same feelings we are experiencing because it's kind of this sense of melancholy we are feeling, seeing that they've aged, but she just comes off as, damn, you're old. This feeling that we have missed so much, this feeling that so much time has passed that, damn, we got so caught up in this elf girl's day to day life of just going through the motion that there are stories of these other characters who have aged that we miss so much on. It's a reminder to us and the viewer that we get so caught up in what we do, we forget to check in on people. That feeling of pain and regret we feel for taking people in our lives for granted. But what makes the feeling worse is when those people leave our lives for good or are not in our lives to the same capacity as they used to be. Once Frieren and crew attend the funeral of their former comrade Himmel, the, the hero of the group, it is not until Himmel is being buried we see Frieren begin to break down crying. After this quiet buildup throughout this masterful first episode, we finally see Frieren begin to realize how she should have taken time to gain to know Himmel and the other party members better. She realized she took their time traveling together for granted. What makes this scene so powerful for someone watching this show is the regret that is rooted in wishing we had a chance to do everything in the past over again, just to ensure that a person knew we care about them the same way they care about us before they depart our lives. Wanting to make sure that person just knew we cared. But all that is because we have this feeling of, because we detached ourselves or didn't get to know them better, we know we caused the opposite feeling to happen. Even if that's not what happens with Freeland's party, us as the viewer, we know that us detaching ourselves from people cause them to feel like they are not loved. Even though the scene itself in the first episode that causes Freedom to cry is because of death, which allows her to have such an emotional realization, the cuts back and forth to the snippets of their journey together to defeat the big demon, just to cut back to the scenes of the present of Himmel's funeral, help generate a universal feeling of emotional vulnerability when we come face to face with what our isolation and apathy have brought us. When Freeland says, we only traveled together for a mere 10 years. I knew human lives were short, but why didn't I try to get to know him better? I believe the wording of this scene and the composition of the image showing Freeland in isolation within said image saying this line of dialogue conveys this universal experience. This universal feeling of regretting not spending enough time knowing someone or a group of people, how that can apply to someone no longer being alive with us on this plane of existence, a person exiting your life because they did not feel a reason to maintain a relationship, or even a person choosing to not be as involved in your life due to changes in their own lives beyond any of our control. These reasons, and many, I think a lot of the story of Frieren, especially how it's established in the first episode to be so universally engaging for anyone watching. Well, except for people who are bad at communicating about their emotions. Anyway, before I continue my analysis of the many themes of Frieren, I want to touch on something quick. Frieren is not the first anime to touch on these themes of isolation and regret, the effects it has on our outlook on life, and the way we treat those who surround us. Popular anime have tackled this thematic undercurrent in its show within a singular episode before moving on from it or making it a prominent focus throughout its entire run. I feel like I have seen enough anime in my life as of now to have some of an understanding of that claim I am making. Most anime that are well known that address these similar themes but in their own unique way are Cowboy Bebop, Neon Genesis Evangelion, Monster, Attack on Titan, Madoka Magica, Berserk, and even the current big shonen hit Jujutsu Kaisen all have moments of depicting the negative consequences of not being aware of how our self-isolation and emotional detachment in the world will inevitably result in the events the characters will later regret. Again, all this is not new to the anime subgenre, especially for real ones who know the hood classic Cashin Sentence from 2008, where that anime is all about characters reconciling with how their actions in life and them trying to find meaning in isolation does not lead to anything good. The point I am getting at is that anime loves particular nihilistic frameworks to make us understand the nuances of life, particularly the animes that are more mainstream, while making many of us into, unfortunately, by doing this, depressed weaves whose risk game does not even compare to the homie mentioned earlier, who, after dying in episode one, his riz remains haunting the main character, Frieren. After establishing that anime has tackled the themes of regret and isolation many times, I want to get back to what makes Frieren such a special show. The character of Frieren does not necessarily have a nihilistic view on the world prior to Himmel's death, but there are aspects of said lens and how she views the world due to her lack of appreciation of it, due to how time passes by her so quickly, being an elf that doesn't age as fast. This is not to say that nihilism is bad. I'm not here to make that point, and I do not care to. I'm also not the person to even make that point. There are other people on YouTube that you can go check out for that. But I find it interesting the tendency she has towards looking at life through such a lens that are quickly depicted as too limited because of how it's affected her relationships and the way she regrets losing time with people. Having such a homogenous view without having a nuanced way of looking in the world is what got her to that moment of crying, allowing her to have that moment of realization. This shows that Freeman as a character did not have a balance between her current worldview and other ways of looking at the world. When it comes to us as a viewer, we obviously cannot relate to an elf who thinks caring too much about the world is pointless. Or we can. Because what I think makes this relatable is how sometimes we isolate ourselves from the world and the people in it sometimes too much because of the hardships of the world. Because let's keep it real, life is hard. We go through experiences where life lets us down repeatedly, thus leading to feeling as if everything is pointless. Even if we focus on our own self improvement because of the world's hardships, we cannot help but to adapt a little bit of nihilism at the world because of what we have gone through. Sure, it is different for Freerin, but the feeling is all too familiar and can be applied to it. Getting so caught up in what we needed to do and ignoring the people and the world around us to feel like there is no true point to it. Failing to realize a healthy balance between feeling that way about the world while also processing other outlooks could have prevented us from taking people in our lives who did care about and love us for granted. In some anime, characters experience this feeling at the end of the story. Sometimes the main character or characters associated with the lead are constantly dealing with the consequences of said worldview for the rest of the story. Frieren, on the other hand, dealt with this in the first episode. Frieren and the anime of the same name are special, not just for doing this all in one episode. The show is special because the journey of Frieren is about learning from the mistakes of our previous journey by going on another one. Learning that there is still a chance to develop meaning and understand meaning in the world and develop relationships with people. Going on the journey of life where meaning is found in the little things we do, meaning is found in doing favors for people, getting to know people better that entered our new stage of life, learn to be more emotionally vulnerable with others, and helping the next generation to be better at loving their friends and comrades. Sure, they will still make their own mistakes along the way, but you now understand the importance of making sure people possess the wisdom to develop emotional intelligence you lacked when you made mistakes that led to your own regret. Frieren and characters that accompany her on this journey to travel the land that is consistently shown to have this euphoric beauty to it conveys how there's no true meaning to this at the moment, but it's given me a reason to keep going. Frieren challenges us to find love, hope, beauty in the emptiness of the world. No matter the small obstacle that comes our way, the minor actions we must take to reach our next destination, there is always something to love in that moment, appreciate in the moment, and reflect on about our lives with each event we take. There are memories to create with people, no matter how inconsequential a group effort might be. Memories to cherish and people to appreciate who help create memories with us. It has been a while since I have seen an anime that wants us to challenge how we engage in our everyday lives in this lens that's so optimistic. Challenges us to find meaning and remain optimistic in the greater world around us, allowing us to feel happy while processing our own regret of the past. Using the past as a learning tool rather than something that holds us back from growing, learn to love the world around us while carrying regret as a reminder to keep learning and growing with the new people who enter our lives that we now have a chance to know, unlike those of the past we failed to know. So, most of this essay has been about the first episode of the anime because I didn't want to give away too many spoilers because it's such a rich show. But I find analyzing the first episode so essential to grasping what makes Frieren so special because the first episode is essentially the thesis of the entire show. Since we see Frieren go on a journey that allows her to not only appreciate the past, but we also see her go on a new journey that allows her to look back on her past with Himmel, Eisen, Heiter, to better appreciate her past experiences and what they communicate about the present. I do not want to do an analysis on every single character in the show because I'll be here all day. But there is one character who I want to give some attention to, who I might come back to in the future video, with how they too inform the larger themes of the show while also providing us more insight into our favorite elf mage that embodies the energy of it's on sight when she sees a demon. So let's talk about the demon sniper in training, Fern. Fern was a young orphan who was brought in by Frieren's friend Heiter because and becomes Frieren's new apprentice. As time went on, Fern showed a lot of magic prowess that captured Frieren's attention. Once Fern joins Frieren on her journey, the similarities are all but obvious. At the start of their journey, Fern does not see the purpose of the little actions her and Frieren are doing for people. This especially is apparent when Frieren seeks out the Blue Moon Weed, the flower of Himmel's hometown. As Frieren dedicates time searching, Fern wonders what is the purpose of such a task if there is no obvious beneficial meaning to the action they are doing. Once Frieren finds a patch of the Blue Moon weed, Fern confronts Frieren on why she loves magic so much. Frieren responded with how Fern chooses to be a mage when she could have done something else. Fern flashes back to a time when she was younger using magic and how happy it made Heiter. That moment Frieren made Fern think about in her past allow her to better understand how such a small moment can impact others until the end of their days. Because of her, especially losing her family to war and wanting to do right by Hyder, Fern seeks meaning in only what she deems as already having pre-ascribed meaning before she has to do it. An outlook on life that is very similar to what Frieren had before Himmel's death. Frieren uses her experience to help Fern understand that even the smallest action and life events are not major or world changing can have just as much importance and significance. It is as if Fern is the avatar for the audience during this moment in the show, being taught by someone with experience to appreciate the small moments in life and how they inform the present. But despite Frieren using her experience to ensure Fern learns a valuable lesson, we are instantly shifting roles following this, where Fern provides Frieren with a moment of self reflection. Because of her experience of not taking too much time to learn more about those she spent so much time with in the past, Frieren tries to not make the same mistake with Fern. She tries not to make the same mistake by trying to do something special for Fern's birthday. Despite doing this, Frieren had to acknowledge one crucial thing. This is because there was a moment in the past when Frieren was being asked what she liked to eat, and Himmel had an idea of what she liked, but then Frieren had to acknowledge, I don't really know anything about y'all. That moment in the past allowed Frieren to open herself up to Fern, not knowing much about her, and allow her to convey that she wants to learn more about Fern, but she doesn't know how to do it because all she knows how to do is know very little about people. At that moment, conveys a feeling I'm sure we have all experienced when connecting with new people and trying not to fall into old habits we have developed. Rather than being upset at Frieren, Fern happily accepts Frieren's gift. And that reminds Frieren of something. It reminds her that we will meet people who acknowledge that we are trying to do better, that we are trying not to repeat our same mistakes, that we are trying to truly self reflect on our past, that it is okay to feel regret for what we did not do, but also to love what we are trying to accomplish in the present, in spite of it. How the effort and willingness to be vulnerable to acknowledge such a shortcoming about yourself in order to do right by someone new in your life can take a relationship a long way. It shows that you are trying to show love to someone who has entered your life because you actually, this time, compared to in the past, truly want to get to know them better. Frieren is an excellent show, and I know I really only have touched on the early beginning of the story, but I think analyzing just this early section of the story helps provide an effective way of how we can look at later events in said story. It's a story about acknowledging our shortcomings in the past and letting those shortcomings be keys to helping us learn, keys to helping us grow, keys to informing us on how to create relationships. I know there are people who will watch this show and feel a lot of emotions like I did. How we all have some sort of regret about our past, how we feel sad about the people who have exited our lives that we didn't get enough time to know, how we feel bad that we got so caught up in isolating ourselves because of how we perceive the world around us. We didn't realize that it would cause us to become so detached from people who truly loved us. And by the time we come to this realization, they're gone. But all because they are gone, that doesn't mean other people won't come into our lives. Us making these mistakes does not mean we are not exempt for creating new connections. We will. But it's all about what Frieren is also doing in the show. Will we learn from our past to maintain our current connections, to make sure the new people who come into our lives feel loved and needed and important? Are we willing to grow out of our isolation and find meaning, hope, beauty in the little things in life? In a time in the world where a lot of media is conveying so many heinous things that are happening in the world, sometimes it's important to take a step back, look at the vast landscape, walk around for a bit, and just tell yourself, it's going to be okay. I'm going to learn. I'm going to grow. And I can't wait for other people to grow with me in this beautiful world.